Well, hello. My name is Rebecca Hall. Welcome to Mediation. So, what names do each of you go by?
Molly is fine.
Nice to meet you, Molly.
Hi.
Craig.
Craig. Nice to meet you, Craig. And you can just call me Rebecca. Now, I understand we don't have a whole lot of time today. That being said, it would be great if you could keep your phones on silent or vibrate and answer only in case of emergency. I understand there are situations, some of us have kids at home. We need to make sure that everything's fine. But we need to make the most of the time that we have today. Now, the purpose of mediation is to work out a mutual agreement between the two of you. And this is a very personal solution for you. It's what works best for you, and it's therefore determined by you, not me. I'm just a facilitator in this process. I'm not a judge, I'm not an attorney, and my role is just to be impartial. And everything you say here today is 100% confidential. That being said, if I take any notes during this, that's just so I can understand what's going on and, sort it out in my own head. After mediation, all notes will be shredded. If at any point you need to speak with me privately, just ask for a caucus. That is when we'll go somewhere private, and again, anything in that situation that you tell me will be held in confidence. Now, how this process is going to work, I'm going to ask each of you to tell your story. Be as open as you can when you're telling your story, because everything you say plays a part in finding the best solution for you. I should warn you, intense emotions are a normal part of this process. Don't hide them, but don't hold on to them either. Express them in a way that lets the other person know what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Now, a few rules. First, we should only have one person talking at a time. Frequent interruptions are not okay. They kind of ruin the process that we're trying to achieve here. If I ask you to let the other person speak, please listen. And last, I ask you to assume the best intentions of each other. I know that things haven't been going well between you. That's why you're here. But remember, you're here because you're trying to make things work, to come up with the best solution possible for you. To do that, you both need to put your best foot forward and put your differences behind you. Now, is there any questions for me before we begin? No? Awesome. Well, I guess we'll start on this side of the room. So, Craig, tell me your story.
Well, the reason that we're here is because Molly's shop did some work on my vehicle. I don't know how long ago it was. Do you remember?
Just like a couple weeks ago, I guess.
Was it a couple weeks ago? Okay. So I had a car problem. I was on my way to school and my car broke down, basically. Having some problems, so I took it into the shop. When I got there, they gave me an estimate for how much the repair would be, which I believe was $325 was the initial estimate. So I said, okay, great. They said they were going to give it a tune-up and fix whatever the problem was that I was having. So I went to class, and it was just, really stressful period. I had a bunch on my plate at the time, and was worried because I need a vehicle and I don't have a lot of money to be able to afford mean, $325 is a big expense for me right now. And, you know, I just had a lot of stress going on at the time. And so I went to class, and then I came back, and I asked Molly for, you know, the bill, my keys, and she told me that it was going to be a lot more expensive. I don't remember the exact quote that she gave me. It was about $500, maybe a little more, which is, it was outside of my budget. I knew I didn't have that much money in the bank, so I wasn't going to be able to afford that at the time. And I'll admit, I did get pretty angry. I was pretty upset because I didn't expect that. And I basically took my keys and, from the desk. They were just laying on the desk. I grabbed them and grabbed my car and left. And Molly is suing me for over $500 that I can't afford. So.
All right, so, Molly, let's hear your story.
Well, he kind of makes me sound like the big bad wolf, and I mean, understandable. It sounds like he's in a pickle, but that's not exactly everything that went on. So, I've owned Molly's Motors for, gosh, we've been there for 10 years in the area. We pride ourselves on our customer service, and we are fair priced. We do a good job. We're not like a lot of other mechanics out there that kind of, you know, add a bunch of unnecessary things to the bill. People in the area trust us, so our reputation is everything. And Craig here, I guess, came up one day. He was referred to me by a long-term customer. Took a glance at his car because, you know, he was rushing out, and after, you know, a quick, you know, general overview, I thought, you know, a quick tune-up would cover most of the problems. But to be fair, his Ford Focus was pretty sick. So he left me with the car, gave him a quote of $325 to do the tune-up. But while I'm doing the tune-up, I realized that there's a lot of other things wrong. The cooling system needed work, the fuel injection system needed cleaning, some new parts were required. And like I said, we pride ourselves on our customer service. And so all of these issues need to be taken care of for him to be able to drive his car. The parts alone cost between $200 and $120. And then for the extra 75 minutes of my time to put everything together, I priced it at about $80 for my work. Like I said, I believe that to be completely fair. But when he came up, to be fair, the total did rise to $525, which I expected, you know, when you take into account my hours and the additional parts needed. And he blew up and called me, well, he called my store a ripoff in front of all my other customers. And so that made me look really bad. And then while I'm dealing with another customer, he just comes over and takes the keys without paying and leaves. Who does that? So yeah, I was irritated, and he refused to pay without giving me a reason. And so yeah, I took him to small claims court, and I'm filing suit for $525 plus the $35 filing fee.
All right, so Craig, you just heard Molly's half of the story. What is your first impressions here?
Well, my first impression is that, and I understand that, you know, where you're coming from, and that you did more work than you thought that you were going to have to do. And I'll admit that I probably overreacted, and maybe if I had been able to stay calmer, we wouldn't be here right now, but here we are. And regardless of whether or not this does end up going to court, I can't afford $525 plus a $35 filing fee right now. So even if it does, I mean, that's my initial impression, is that this amount of money I can't afford right now. So either way, you're not gonna get that full amount right away. I mean, I'd also like to avoid getting a judgment against me, but I also feel like I have an argument in my favor in that we never did have a written contract or anything signed. I moved forward and agreed to your initial offer of $325, which I thought was what was going to be the upper limit of what I was going to be able to pay, because that was pretty much the upper limit of what I could afford and still be able to eat. So that's basically where I'm coming from, is that, I feel like Molly should have, if the price was gonna go over that $325 amount, I feel like they should have waited until I had authorized them to keep working on the car for that amount, because, I mean, the other option here, in my mind, is that they seize the vehicle and try to sell it for the remaining portion of that debt. But that's just gonna be, I mean, I don't think you're gonna get another $200 in value out of that vehicle if that's what happens. So, I mean, I'd like to come to some kind of agreement today between that $325 and the $525 and $35 filing fee that we can work on to move forward today rather than going to court. So that's where I'm at.
So, Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing you say is that you wish that Molly's Motors had communicated with you more.
Right.
And that you feel that you were just kind of left out of the loop here.
Right, well, I just feel like I was expecting one thing and another thing happened, and I think to best serve your customers, they should know what you're gonna do with their property. And I don't feel like it would have been a problem for them to wait until I authorized them to continue working if they knew that it was gonna be, almost twice as expensive as the initial. I mean, I think that's reasonable especially if they know that, I'm young, I'm a college student, they know I probably don't have much money. I mean, look at my car, right? So I just feel like it's reasonable for them to ask for authorization to continue working on a vehicle when they know that the cost is going to be so much higher than what the original estimate was, so that I would have the opportunity to decline that work, because that's what I would have done.
Okay, so you wanted opportunity to be able to decline
Right.
if it went over that $325.
Right.
And you were denied that when they continued working on it and provided you with that final bill of $525. Correct? All right.
Can I interject?
Absolutely.
So first off, you didn't leave a number. And the form just completely left it blank. When you dropped off his car, you seemed really stressed out and anxious to get the car done. And so, what we do at Molly's Motors, we go above and beyond. So he didn't leave a number, and I was concerned that he would come back and the car wouldn't be done. And then, every word would get across town that I don't get things done on time, which is just not true. And so I was left with, okay, I can do kind of a halfway job on his car, or I can make the necessary repairs so that he could drive it out that day. But like I said, he didn't even leave a phone number. So how am I supposed to contact him? Do you see from my situation, it was kind of a no-win. It's like I either wait for him to get back and then he's mad at me because I didn't completely fix his car, or, I mean, what was I supposed to do?
So tell me more about that. You said you were concerned about doing have job, you're concerned
Right,
about,
my reputation is
getting-
everything.
right, so tell me how that affects your reputation.
Well, I mean, word gets around. I'm efficient, I'm quick, and I'm reasonably priced. That's why customers keep coming back to me. It's a small town, word gets around. All it really takes is, one bad thing on Yelp, and man, I don't want to know what happens to my customer base.
Right, but tell me more about how not having the car completely done by the time he returned later that afternoon would badly affect your reputation.
Because I wouldn't have it done on time. I mean, if people drop off their car and you tell them, like, oh yeah, it'll be ready to drive, or, he was really anxious to get this car fixed. And I care about my customers. I want to be able to, do what I say I do.
So if I'm understanding correctly, are you saying then that you were kind of working on an assumption that, Craig had given you the impression that he wanted the car drivable by the
Fixed.
time he returned, no matter the price?
Well, I mean, I didn't really think overly much about the price, but it's like you bring a car into a shop, you generally want it to drive, right? And so these were the necessary parts that, I understand where he's coming from, to be fair. But these parts needed work. I understand he's a college student, and got friends that have been in that situation. Money's tight, so. But I do have people coming in to work off their bill. Spending a day in the shop and sweeping and stuff like that. I mean, we could get creative with how we pay for it. I'll even shave off my hours that I spent on it, but what I'm running into is those parts and my reputation.
Right, so those are the two important things to you,
Mhm.
is the price of the parts and your reputation.
Yes.
So, Craig, what do you think about that?
I think that's understandable. I mean, I think that's reasonable too. I'm not saying I'm not willing to pay for the work that you did. I was just, I was in a tough spot, and it surprised me, and that it was gonna be that expensive, and so I was afraid that, I wasn't gonna have a vehicle, and I wasn't gonna be able to go to class, and then things were just gonna sort of snowball into something that was
Right.
out of my control, and so, yeah, I maybe acted irrationally.
You were overwhelmed.
Right, I was overwhelmed.
So, would you be open to the possibility of paying the $525, but at small monthly increments?
Yeah, I mean, I can pay it, so I would like to pay the $325 now, because that's what I agreed to initially. And I'm fine with that. And then the additional $525, what portion of that was parts?
No, the total of everything was $525, so including the $325.
Right.
The parts were between $200 and $120. But like I said,
And the labor was $80.
that assumption, so in hindsight, I should have waited for him to come back and okay the extra cost. So I'll knock the $80 for the additional time that I took on it, as long as you pay for parts. So $525 minus 80. What is that? Help me.
No.
I'm sorry, I zeros.
Yeah.
$445?
Look at us. Yeah. So, if that's acceptable for you, I think that would be fair.
So $445 altogether?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be.
For the misunderstanding, and I do apologize.
No, and I apologize too, the way that, I know that I didn't act the way I should have in that situation. I should have, been more calm, but, so I apologize for that.
Hey.
And I do appreciate you being willing to work with me. I'm not gonna go out and leave negative reviews on Yelp or, you know, I'm not gonna, I feel like, you know, we both probably could have acted differently in that situation, and sometimes that happens when people get really upset. So I understand that, and I wish that you had taken me to court, but I'm also glad that we're doing this mediation prior to that, so that we can maybe try to work it out. So would you be willing to waive the $35 filing fee? Do you still want that?
Give me a good review on Yelp and I'll take care of it.
I can do that.
All right.
All right, wonderful.
So that the additional $125 after is it 125 or 120? $120 after the 325.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yes,
Um,
120 on top of that.
So I don't have that
Okay.
right now.
Right.
Can we agree that I can get that to you in a month?
Sure.
Next month?
You know, you seem like a good kid, and if you've got like a Saturday free or something like that, and feel like cleaning up the shop, we can waive the 120, and you come in and clean up the area.
Really? I would totally be willing to do that.
Do you think that would be fair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That works for both parties easily.
Great. I've got some manpower, and you don't even have to eat tuna for a month.
Perfect.
Yay.
All right, well, we'll draw up the official paperwork, and thank you guys so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.